Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. We're going on a special trip today. We're going to go to Grand Island, Nebraska and check out Husker Harvest Days. They have it every year right before harvest starts in September. So we're going to go take a look. We missed it last year because we had a little too much going on. But if you want to see what it's all about, stick with us. We're going. I heard something through the grapevine the other day that John Deere will not be represented at the Husker Harvest Days, and it made me wonder why that was. I don't know their reasoning behind it. They've always had a strong showing at any of the farm shows, but if anybody knows why they're not going to be there, leave it down in the comments. I don't think it's very wise of them not to be there. Not that we probably won't see John Deere equipment there with different heads and stuff like that from different companies. But John Deere, you better look out, because I've been seeing a lot of red farm equipment here in Nebraska. So you better stay on it. All right, we have arrived at Husker Harvest Days. We're outside the event. You can see all of the exhibits and vendor areas over in that area, and then out here is where they have combine demos. They have actual cornfields and stuff out here where they can do combine demos. I'll stop, you can see them out there running. So you can actually see equipment working in a field if you're interested in buying one type of piece of equipment. If you've never seen a helicopter crop duster tender, this is what they look like. The helicopter actually lands right on top of the truck, and they can refill the helicopter while it's sitting there, and then they take off and go spray some more field. Now this booth is right up my alley. All kinds of gadgets and gizmos, Milwaukee tools, whatever you need for your farm shop. Now this is one heck of a crimper right here. Big roller crimper for crimping down cover crops or just rolling down your soil. Lots of elevators. If you ever wonder how these elevators work, you see this arm that goes up and supports. That arm is pulled back with a cable, which causes the elevator to go up and down. It's got a roller or a track that rolls up and down the bottom of the elevator. So when you pull that arm in, the elevator goes up, you let the arm out, the elevator goes down. Got lots of tillage on display here at the show. It's a big part of Nebraska farming, is getting the ground ready. A lot of planting equipment, dirt moving equipment, tillage equipment. They got the Zematic Group booth here, which is a pivot company. If you ever wondered how a pivot works, they actually have one moving here. They normally move a little slower than this when they're irrigating, but they run off a center pivot, which you see down on the other end, and then the water comes down these hoses and irrigates the field. And then typically you have an end gun out on the end of the pivot that extends the reach of the pivot. But the majority of your corn and soybeans and stuff here in Nebraska are irrigated with these pivots, and they're generally quite a few towers long. This is just one tower here for demonstration, but they'll go 5, 6, sometimes 10 towers long. So I'm in the Calmer tent here. and looking at the corn heads, and they've changed quite a bit. Instead of the old sickle bar cutters, they have these rotary cutters on every row. Corn comes in and it crimps it all off and cuts it off. Pretty sweet. We'll look at the top of one over here. That's what the new corn heads look like. Pretty ingenious. We got Marty here. He's going to show us how this rotary cutter works.
Actually, what we have is up on the nose here. These flutes are concaved in the back, so that helps transition the stalk up into what we call the window.
Okay.
There is a window cut out here. You can see these blades are cut back.
Yep.
That forms that window on this dull blade. This is a capture blade. And what it does is it captures the stalk and then it accelerates it downward, and the bottom part of the stem is blown apart. It just shreds it. Once this is caught, we take the next 4 inches, 3 inches, and that does the majority of all the shredding and cutting. From here up, this is like a wind propeller. All your trash that may be up in here is accelerated down. It goes through the cutters, gets rid of the trash. By the time that stalk reaches the top or the trash reaches the top, everything should be gone. Wow,
that leaves a lot cleaner field. This must be what it looks like over here when it comes out. Wow, that's awesome.
And then you go to pull this out, you can't pull it out because you're cutting it, and that's why it grabs it, accelerates that stalk down. This is the shredding that's left after the stalk has gone through the cutter.
Now, if you're putting cows on corn stalks, is this a lot better, easier for them to forage on when it's shredded up like this?
And it helps the bottom stem. It's not a hard stem after 2 weeks. It's very soft, smellable. Get in. There's actually one of the fellows that work up in this end, Mike. He bales all of this.
So you can bale it when it's in this form here?
Yes.
Wow. That's awesome. Thanks for the demo.
I got another one for you.
Sure, let's go.
Once we've taken care of the stalk, we have to worry about the ears. So we'll go over here to display.
All right.
Demo. These are what we call the deck plates. Some people call them a stripper deck plate. Doesn't matter. We have a transitional change as that stalk comes into the front of the nose of this deck plate. This angle is different than this one. This helps reduce the amount of resistance there is, making the transition a lot more efficient. Next thing we have is a different bevel edge. We ear a corn. As it comes down, some of these are straight out, they're not beveled. And so all that force, as that stalk is coming down on the deck plate, you start pulling off the kernels, stripping the kernels. And what you need to do is you need to leave those kernels on or don't have them stripped. That's what this bevel plate is for. That bevel plate acts as if there's a hand down there and you disperse your force energy around the outside of that ear.
So you're not losing kernels out on the ground.
Right.
Excellent.
You don't get that shelling that takes place.
Now your company's called Calmer?
Calmer corn heads. Some people, we call it Calmer.
Calmer.
But everybody else says Calmer.
Now what, are you out of Nebraska?
No, we're out of Alpha, Illinois.
Alpha, Illinois, okay.
Which is 30 miles south of the Quad Cities.
Outstanding. So anybody interested in their new corn heads, they look like they do a fantastic job.
These are what we call kits. And if you have an old head, the John Deere, IH, New Holland, Gleaner, Garanoff, there are kits that you can buy to upgrade your original head. Over here, these are actual Calmer corn heads. Was designed by my brother, and they have all the upgrade kits that you need. It's a heavier combine. It's got heavier Deere case in it. Deere cases are aluminum. They're made out of Argentina. I should say they are lighter. My mistake.
Now, how many rows is that head?
24 rows, 22 inches between the rows.
That gets her done.
And supposedly that's supposed to be the biggest in the world.
You're going to have to run quite a few grain carts to keep up with that thing.
The stock rows, they run approximately 800 to 1,000 acres per row.
Wow.
So in other words, if you have 12 rows, you're going to cover 12,000 acres before you have to do anything with the cutting roll.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you guys have a website?
Yes, we do. CalmerConeheads.com/solutions.
There's their website, folks. That's how you get a hold of them. All right, we thank you, Martin.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. At the Kawasaki booth, the new T-Rex looks pretty sweet. That's the more utility type side-by-sides here. And if I was still riding motorcycles, that Enduro over there would be really sweet. Got the Mighty Giant booth here. Now these are barrel grinders. Out where I'm from, they use these to grind up orchards. When they take them out, they grind the trees up with something similar to this. Out here in the Midwest, they use these for grinding hay. They'll grind up the big round hay bales. They'll have somebody come through either once or twice a year and grind up some of last year, some of this year's hay bales, mix it all together, and then you would mix that in with silage or whatever else feed you're going to feed, and it helps it go through the feed trucks a lot easier. How's that for a rock picker? Got a little arm that grabs a rock, throws it in your rock rake. Pretty cool. I guess they even have software that maps where your rocks are in the field, so you can go back and find them. Here's a big green eye sprayer. And what this thing does, there's a whole lot of technology wrapped up in this thing. It's got photo eyes that actually senses the weeds as you go through the field at 15 miles an hour. And if it senses the weed, it only sprays where the weeds are. It doesn't put down a complete spray pattern as you go through the field. Pretty cool stuff. Got some old iron here too. Pretty cool Farmalls and John Deere's, Internationals. And I believe this is an older version of our tractor, our John Deere B. Neat looking old tractor. Got some more iron over here.
All the way around.
Got the horse whisperer dude over here.
And all the way around, didn't it? It didn't take off. It didn't take flight. Do you see how soft? I got the light down and the energy down at me.
These guys are good at what they do.
When I give you this knowledge.
Deer blinds on a trailer, hydraulically lifted. You can move them around, and where you get to go, you hit the hydraulics and it goes up in the air. That is pretty sweet. Redneck blinds. They've got a ground blind right there. I need one of those for our farm. And then another elevated blind there. And then one that looks like a hay bale. Pretty sweet. We're doing more combine demos over on the other side of the exhibition grounds over here. Got a bunch of people standing out in the field watching. Haven't seen one of these before. Well, in this type, I've seen them for four-wheelers. But this is a little portable cage that you use to separate the calf from mama without getting killed. You drive this through the field and come over onto the calf, and then you lower that thing down. And then you've got the calf secluded, and you can get in and do what you need without mama trying to take you out. Pretty slick. Here's what the old windmills used to look like. They were made out of wood. Completely different than the metal ones they came up with later. Now look at the size of this grain bin, or grain cart, I should say. Can't really call this thing a cart. 7 axles. The rear axles are steerable. I don't know if you would see this thing going through the field. Maybe if it was a flat field and not a lot of hills. But you'd be hard pressed to pull a load like that up a hill in the field unless you had a monster tractor pulling it. But it's enormous. So if you've ever wanted to look at a grain bin up close, this is what it looks like. And then right next to it here is an elevator. It's called an elevator. It takes the corn or whatever you're storing up to the top. Usually there's one elevator and several bins, and then you'll have a bunch of different tubes going to the different bins that you can select. And this is the pit module here. This would go down flush level with the ground where you could drive a truck over the top. And then you have a small elevator here that would take your material and put it into the large elevator and then put it in the top of the grain bin. And then we'll go inside and show you what the inside looks like. You have the elevated floor, which allows air to get under the material in the bin. So if you're drying whatever's in the bin, they'll force air underneath the floor, and it'll come up through the material until it's whatever moisture level, whatever percentage they like to store it. Now you have a auger system that feeds from the middle of the bin here, and while the bin's full they can just turn that on, and then once your bin gets down below to where it'll feed into that hole, then you can turn on this auger that cleans the floor up, and this goes around in a circle in the bin, dragging the material over to the center point where it goes out. Now once you're done, there's a little sweeping involved in here, not too much though. This thing picks up quite a bit of the material and takes it out of the bin, and you can load it in a truck or do whatever you're going to do with the material. But this is what the inside of the bin looks like. You never want to be in one of these things when it's got corn in it, because it can get pockets in it and it gets real dangerous. Here's the Fent Booth. Gigantic combine alongside a gigantic planter. This thing folds up to go down the road. Latest and the greatest technology. I think it all works on vacuum. And you got fertilizer and seed bins up there, and a big old tractor to pull it. Now there is a giant manure spreader. That's crazy big. You load that thing with manure, and these things on the back tear it all up and throw it out in the field. Now here's the kind of calf catcher I'm used to, mounted to a quad. Got the spring-loaded door on the front. You can catch your calf. And the nice thing about this one is you can enter from the side without going on the end where mama can get you. This one you can step right off of your quad and go right into the calf cage right here, making it much safer. It's called Safety Zone Calf Catcher. Here's a portable corral system for working your cows. All of this folds up onto this one towable trailer here, all these panels. So it folds all together. There's a really quick setup. You got some nice holding pins in a real quick fashion. And then you've got little holding pins right here on the towable section that you can isolate your animals in. Pretty neat idea. All of the gate sections are on wheels, so they're easy to push around. You'd probably want to be on pretty level ground though. Finally, a grain cart manufacturer that puts the unloader chute on the correct side. If you know anything about tractors, all your controls are on the right side, and your seat in the tractor, the newer ones, will swivel to the right. So it's much easier to look to the right when you're unloading. And they have their chute on the right side. Amazing. And then they even have a scale up here on the side, so you know how much you're loading or offloading into your truck so you don't get overweight. So you see there's a guy up there on it, probably a couple people, because it's reading 420 pounds right now. Pretty sweet. It's got tracks so you can avoid the compaction issues, and if you got any mud in the field, chances are you're not going to get stuck. This thing is sweet. America. This right here is an autonomous planter. You fill this baby up and turn it loose, and it plants the field. It appears to be a 4-row planter. Does it all on its own. I imagine they can go bigger, they can scale it up if need be, but it's self-propelled. Now this is a pickup bed that picks up the big round bales of hay. The power unit down in here, and it not only picks it up, but it'll unroll it as well with these little spindles up here. Or you can carry 2 bales. You can put 1 bale on the pickup bed and then carry another bale behind it on the spool. You can haul 2 bales at a time. You can drag them out in the field and unroll them for the cows to eat. Folks, you do not know how tempted I am to cowboy up and go swimming. Looks very inviting. There's the bobcat area. Not just skid steers anymore. Making tractors and side-by-sides and excavators, backhoes. Lots of different options. Now this is a newer planter unit, and gone are the days of there being a seed hopper on each row. You can see this black tube here. There's one for seed, one for fertilizer, and they deposit down in here. And they all come from the main tanks, and they use air to move the seeds down in the rows. And each one of these rows has a metering device that meters the seed on whatever population you want down in the row. All right, we're here at the, is it Strobel Manufacturing?
Yeah, Strobel Manufacturing.
We've got Larry here with us. He brought some red meat out to the sidewalk, which I'm always a fan of. They've been barbecuing apparently.
Yep.
Now, we see something real interesting here with this cattle shade, standalone cattle shade. What can you tell us about this thing?
Yeah, this is called the Strobel Super Shade. It's 1,600 square feet. So it's a 40 by 40 tarp. It's a 70% mesh. So as we're standing here, you'll see you get a little bit of sunset light through, you get a little bit of moisture, airflow. Yep. We've made the sides 12 foot up to about 14 at the center. This whole structure weighs about 10,000 pounds. Everybody's first question is, hey, that's gonna blow over, or what's it take to blow that over?
Yeah, that would be a question I would have. What kind of wind can this stand up to here in Nebraska?
And everybody thinks their wind is the worst.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if they're in Texas.
That's for sure.
This won't handle my wind. Well, the reality is they almost rarely blow over. I say, well, wind can blow almost anything over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bands or,
yeah.
But we've seen up to 65, 70 mile an hour straight line winds. It's that tornadic wind.
Yeah.
That can actually do some twisting of the parts that we'd have to replace. But in general, we've got over 1,200 of these out in the marketplace, and they just work year after year.
Now, does this have any like folding capability, or once it's up, it's up?
No, good. It doesn't fold, but what we do, and this is the most important part, you'll see the handles here at the top on all 4. The shade rolls up to the center.
Okay.
So from both sides it'll go up to the center, and then it'll store throughout the winter. So we call it self-storing, that it just straps to itself along that center beam.
So do you have to manually roll it up, or does it roll itself up?
We've got some cranks that do it, but it's not electronic.
Like a tarp on a grain wagon or something like that.
Exactly, like a semi. In fact, these are Sureco tarps.
Okay.
And they make a lot of semi tarps. It's the same concept to roll it up to the middle. So that base itself, if you want to zoom in on it, weighs just up to that first section about 7,200 pounds.
Wow.
So it's 3.5 tons. And we put the fork pockets in a few years ago, and each side has that eyelet. So you can just hook on with the chain, pull it out of the way, maybe groom your feedlot, shape it.
So that does not go into the ground.
Correct.
It's got enough weight to hold this thing down. That's a lot of weight.
And in one sense, it's like a big parachute, but it's been designed in such a way that, again, unless it's a tornadic sort of activity, it stays in place. I mean, the structure weighs over 10,000 pounds.
This would go nice in my yard.
It would. We use it as a people shade every once in a while.
I bet.
Yeah. And a lot of county fairs are putting these in, partly for the people, the registration.
Absolutely.
And sometimes for the livestock.
You always need some shade.
There's about 100 people ask one of the other questions, how many cattle can this handle? And generally we'll say 100. Not that they all get under at the same time, but they come in and out, moving to the feed bunk and
as
the water.
they're foraging and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they take turns, you know, kind of going under the shade. It's fascinating to watch it on a GoPro, how they go in and out. Our website is Strobel MFG, like manufacturer, strobelmfg.com. They can see videos and testimonials and research. We've got a Kansas State study, a 2-year study on the effects of shade that's just coming out at the end of the month. And if someone emails me,
well, I remember here recently this summer there was a giant, a very large kill down in Kansas with the heat.
Yes.
And even here in Nebraska, I've noticed that the farmers go out of their way to remove all the trees from their pasture.
Right.
They don't like especially the cedar trees. So there's really no shade out in the pasture. So.
Well, the cattle will tear the trees up for one thing, and then if you're in a place where you want to be cleaning it, obviously it's nice to have a portable shade that you can pull aside, clean your pen, and so on. So. Now,
where I'm from, originally out in California, the dairy farmers, they'll even put misters and all that out there to keep the cattle cool.
Right.
Because obviously milk production is a little bit different. But
yeah, the downside of the water, and a lot of great producers use misting or spraying their water, is once you start early, they kind of become addicted to it.
Yeah, and I know I would be.
Yeah, right. It's like keep it on me all the time. The other thing is with black skin cattle, that water sitting on can actually be a little bit of a magnification force.
Yeah, I imagine that would create a lot more heat.
Yeah. Then you've got the humidity. Just think of all that water all laying in the manure, and the humidity and the big mess and the flies and everything that comes with that.
Yeah.
So there's a downside there, whereas shade is nice because you're just blocking that intense sun a little bit.
Now what caught my eye when I came by were these seed tenders. These take the Pro boxes on here, and this one takes 4 Pro boxes.
Yeah, that's the biggest we make there.
Is it an auger down the center?
Correct.
And it brings it to the filler tube here.
Correct. Yeah, this is a poly cup flighting that takes it up, and then you just go along with your actuator and you fill up.
With all the crazy amount of row cedars they have nowadays, this is a telescoping boom that will reach all of your seed pots. Which they're going away from now. There's all air cedars now. But this is really cool. I like this real clean construction right here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, I thank you, especially for the red meat.
You bet,
That was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, you take care.
Thanks.
Here is the Hotsy monster truck. Hotsy make pressure washers. Pretty famous for their heated pressure washers. Pretty styling truck there. Here's the Kubota area, and then right next door is the case area. But look at this sprayer. The spray rig is crazy. Got like 100-foot wingspan. That's insane. You could probably drive over the top of a car and not even hit it. And that big nasty planters. Look at this 420 quad track. Big monster machine. Let's go look at the combine over here. Look at this massive machine here. I'm sure the camera does not do it justice. But I'm 6'4". That tire is taller than I am. Now Case by far has the biggest showing here at the Husker Harvest Days. They have like a whole city block of Case equipment and a big building down there. Look at the giant head on this thing. And the head swivels so you can make the cab to where it's straight up and down and you're not leaning over if you're harvesting on side hills. It'd be a lot more comfortable. If you got big equipment, you need a big tow rope. There's that spool of rope. There's my size 14 foot. Here's the New Holland booth. I think they got a giant sprayer also. Big New Holland combine down there. Now any large farming operation goes through lots of lubrication, and if you have lots of different types of equipment, you're going to need different types of oils, hydraulic oils, motor oils, gear oils, all that stuff. And that's what this unit here does. You can have 4 different types of oil in this unit. This little thing sitting here on top is for taking it out of a bucket. But this is made by Big Slick, called the King of Lubes. Out of Fairfield, Texas. That'd be a pretty handy deal. You could just drop in your 1-ton pickup and haul it around during harvest. Here's the Bush Hog booth. Some good looking machines out here. You ever wondered what the underside of a bush hog looks like? I'll show you. Look at those giant teeth. They go out, once that drum starts spinning, those black teeth go out to the side just with centrifugal force. You can see how heavy those teeth are. They're like 1/2 inch thick, and that'll chop through trees, brush, all kinds of stuff. That's why they call them bush hogs. We've got the big bat wing model right here. This folds up so you can get it down the road. It's got 3 blades under it. I'll show you the big blade on this side. Big monster blade. Got some rototillers over here. I would love one of these. We've been pricing these rototillers, and the ones just at our farm store are about $3,000 for a 6-footer. Should be, I think, this one right here. One of these days. Got the draft wagon beer tent, live music. If I wasn't driving home, I'd go get me a cold one for sure. Well, that's the end of our day here at Husker Harvest Days. It was quite a walk around that place. It's a huge complex. Lots and lots of miles put on today. And it was warm, but good thing we had a breeze. But we're going to wrap it up. We hope you enjoyed your trip with us here to the Husker Harvest Days. We had a good time seeing all the equipment and everything, but we only showed you just the highlights because there's so much more going on here and so much more equipment to see. But I just showed the out of the ordinary stuff. And I will tell you, if you want to eat, you need to come early because a lot of food stands just run out of food. I made that mistake. But hope you enjoyed the video today. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us at Mark Kelly Farm.